Carl and Lou here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it is, of course, Freddy's Nightmares, an episodic recap. We are into season 2, the second season of this show. Can you believe it even got a second season? Not like the first season was terrible, but considering the format and what was going on in a lot of the episodes and how unrelated to A Nightmare on Elm Street it is overall, when you look at the overarching season, it's incredible that it lasted as long as it did. Yeah. 2 very lengthy seasons, but it did, and we're now going to look at season number 2, starting with episode number 1, Dream Come True, directed by George Kazanda and written by Tom Blomquist. Yeah, this is a Freddy-centric episode. It's one of those rarities where Freddy Krueger is the focal point. In fact, I'd go as far to say that this episode has more in common with A Nightmare on Elm Street series than most of the episodes overall. There were a few in season 1, mainly around like My Sister's Keeper, those episodes, the girls. The ones that were Freddy-centric always felt like they were drawing from A Nightmare on Elm Street, whereas this one really does. In fact, I think it draws from a couple of the specific movies, but we'll get a little bit more into that as we kind of give you the rundown of what the episode is. Star-wise, Robert Englund, of course, as Freddy Krueger, reprising his role, mainly doing the same sort of intro and outros of the episodes with a little bit in between when it comes to the ad breaks. It's nothing special from him here. He's not really doing much, and his puns are getting worse. If they're even puns, really, to be honest.
He's getting his money, isn't he?
It's easy money. It is. Scott Marlowe as Brandon Keffler, David Kaufman as Randy Jennings, and Gerard Prendergast as Gary Heath. Those across the 2 segments, because it still follows that same format. We are still doing, what do you call it? 2 segments combined with a link in between. We've already seen with the episodes we've done of season 2 up to this point that some of those links are tenuous at best. Very, very minor stuff, whereas some are more obvious. Like this one's a pretty good example of where the links up quite nicely to tell 2 separate stories. Yeah,
rather than just someone who walked on the set. Oh, it's you next.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. Or background character, a secondary character moving into the main role. Yeah, so Freddy-centric, beginning with A Nightmare on Elm Street-centric story. A teenager is dreaming of Freddy Krueger. I mean, there you go, right?
That's it.
That's it. What more do you need? That's like literally A Nightmare on Elm Street through and through. The killer taunting him and getting closer to killing him. It's that kind of thing. The teases. You know, is he trying to kill him? Is he not? Well, he is eventually, but it's the winding up. But you kind of wonder why we would do that. Why not just kill him? He's a little bit more... If you go back to like the original A Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, Freddy Krueger didn't fuck around. Yeah. He would tease, but the end result of that dream was he was going to kill you. He wasn't waiting for 3 dreams later, that kind of thing. But of course, this is a show, and it's not going to be that violent or gory. But yeah, but it was nice sort of to see that. It was like this felt very traditional. And his mother is worried about him. So she ends up employing the help of like a dream doctor who's currently like on a talk show trying to sell his book, basically. And on that show, the host kind of coerces him into proving his method actually worked, because she's in the audience and she's like puts her hand up and says, hey, can you help me please, my son, on all this? And the host of the show is like, no, you know, like, prove it, basically. You say you got his method. And it was a bit like, prove what? Because it's initially confusing about what this guy is. I thought he was just a standard psychologist, but it's some sort of dream doctor stuff.
Yeah, he's quite rude about it. He's quite rude to his guests, isn't he? So it's kind of like a...
He doesn't believe in it. No. He doesn't believe in it at all. But believe what? That's the thing. It doesn't do a very good job of explaining believe what exactly. What is he saying he can do? Is he... Because ultimately, it's not a secret that dreams are just dreams, right? So, like, what's he proving? That you can... I don't know. I don't know.
There's
like
areas that you could say he's a specialist in, but
I thought
there's not enough time to explain all that, is there?
Yeah, I thought we might lean more towards elements of Dream Warriors, and I'm in Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Here we have power in your dreams, and it does come into it, but it's not fully explored, mainly because it doesn't have the time to do that. But the host of the show also, like, to prove this method, wants to film it. He wants to film it for the show. And apparently the teenager and his mother are just fine with this, apparently, right? Like, they're just fine with it. There's no conversation happen. It's just cut to the house. The guy in his really, really tight jeans is there. That's Gerard Prendergast, actually. Gary Heath, the character Gary Heath. Just there with a video camera. Yeah. It's a bit like, okay. And it's 1989 video camera as well. So the thing is just a freaking beast.
Yeah, he's got some like shoulder issues after.
Yeah. But they're just kind of like... yeah, happy to film it. Of course, this therapist, his method seems to be trying to get Randy, which is the teenager, to just accept that dreams aren't real and they can't hurt him. Which, really? That's a book? That's a study? I mean, okay, all right. I wouldn't quite put it down as that big of a deal, but there you go. Of course, by doing this, it means the therapist ends up getting the attention of Freddy Krueger. Now, I may have been reading too much into this because basically the doctor now starts to get tormented by Freddy. I may have read too much into this in that I thinking bigger, I think I was. Well, I suggested to you that, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this episode was kind of based around the idea that because of all the people Freddy had killed, all the teens that had died, and all these other people and so on, that Freddy was worried he was losing, people weren't remembering him. And that's why he was actually taunting Randy. So Randy would bring in the therapist, who would then end up on TV to talk about Freddy Krueger, because his name keeps coming up, and that would make people remember Freddy Krueger, and maybe more people would be able to attack more. Basically, kind of the plot of Freddy versus Jason. If you've seen that crossover movie, where Freddy's been forgotten about completely and has no power, so he utilizes Jason, finds Jason in hell, and uses Jason to go and kill kids on Elm Street. But that leads people to believe that it's Freddy Krueger, and now they're talking about him again, and that is to set me like that kind of in. That's what I got. Of course, Freddy vs. Jason is way later on, so it's not like this drew from that or anything like that. But it got me thinking about that, particularly in the way that the therapist, freaking out and panicking, ends up running on camera, shouting about Freddy Krueger and all of that, and ends up getting shot when he pulls out a gun out and stuff like that, and gets shot by a security guard. I thought that worked really, really well, and it is a good first segment. That feels a little more adult, a lot more Nightmare on Elm Street. In particular, the ending and some of the effects. There's a really strong Freddy Krueger face melting effect in this one as well. It felt very Nightmare on Elm Street.
They're always stronger when they have the link back to Freddy, or they have their own strong story, like well told. A lot of this is filler, but to start off strong, it might be that they had to put this in as like a pilot for the second series.
It is that, isn't it? It's similar to the first season as well. Like first and last in particular. There were a few in season 1, but the first and last were Freddy centric completely. And I do think you kind of start off season 2. That's what you're coming out of the blocks with. And it doesn't end out either with the second segment. It's not as good, not as interesting, and it focuses on the cameraman who filmed the doctor's attempts to cure the teen of his dreams. He believes Freddy is real. Now, never really explain as to why he comes to this conclusion. He just sort of, I don't know, he gets a vibe or something like that. And he starts to look through footage and all that, and he starts to wonder and think that Freddy might have found a way to cross over to reality. However, only he is able to see the evidence. So ends up, and this was a good link, enlisting the help of Randy, the teenager, to prove Freddy exists once and for all. And there's a really good scene where it's really logically explained, is when he goes to see Randy, and he's like, oh, I want your help, you got to help me prove that he's real, and he's here, and all of that. And Randy's like, bro, like, he's leaving me alone. I ain't going to mess with them. And like the camera's like, yeah, but like, for how long? Like, for how long? What makes you think that he won't come back? And it's kind of like, oh, all right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, all right, all right. And here we actually get some like more classic Freddy stuff. In particular, classic boiler room stuff. A section of this episode takes place in a classic boiler room environment, which is very Freddy Krueger. There's a really good segment in this as well, because what really pushes the cameraman on Gary on is the discovery of his girlfriend being dead at the hands of Freddy. Or at least he suspects it's Freddy. He ends up using his camera and catching Freddy in the background, which does suggest Freddy might have crossed over from dreams. But that's evidence that nobody else sees. When he plays it back, nobody else can see it. That's really well done, because he doesn't know it's his girlfriend originally. They do a terrible job of actually explaining his relationship with this woman.
Fiancé.
Not fiancé, not even his girlfriend. You're right,
It's a bit kind of like, because they talk about going for dinner, and lets me know it's, oh, we know, oh, sorry that your fiance's dead. Fiancé, what?
Yeah, it was about, what? Okay, all right, we didn't really get that. So it doesn't have any weight. There's no weight to it. It's still just about putting, like, Freddy at the focus here. But it does end abruptly, too. It's a good example, this second segment, right, is a good example of where a longer story and more runtime is needed to get good. Because when I said at the start of this video, I'm talking about elements that reference Freddy Dream Warriors, I also think there's elements that reference, I thought they could be referencing the second film, Freddy's Revenge, the second film, which of course is a Freddy kind of coming out of someone's body and being reborn in that aspect. And I thought, okay, maybe that could be a fun thing to do with the Randy character here as well, using the elements of those two films, Power and Dreams, but also about the ability of Freddy to potentially cross over and come to our reality. But that doesn't have enough time to fully explain that. It doesn't have enough time to flesh any character out. It just gives us lots of little classic moments that are very Nightmare on Elm Street. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that because it made for overall an enjoyable episode, I think. It's more keeping in tone with the films, using those elements from it, but also having a more horror-centric feel. So for me, I was quite satisfied with this as a starting episode.
Yeah, I think overall I enjoyed all the elements. I always want longer.
Yeah.
The story's good, I always want longer. When it's rubbish, I'm like, please finish now.
Yeah, there is a catch there, isn't there? We've seen some pretty dull episodes. Yeah. But this is a good example of where a little bit more meat to the bones could have been really, really good. Because it's telling good Freddy Krueger stuff. And it's one where he feels like a threat again. Less of the comedy guy, and he actually feels like a threat. Yeah. I really enjoyed it as well. It's helped by, I think, pretty good strong acting overall as well. Yeah. I think the acting overall is really strong from all the characters doing good roles. And those jeans that Gary Heath, that Jared Prendergast is wearing, man, those jeans were putting in a shift.
Yep.
Absolutely. His groin must have been crushed. Watch it, you'll see what the hell we mean. So yeah, not a bad start to season 2. Yeah, episode 1, dream come true. You got any thoughts? You know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.